Welcome to Taking the Higher Road, a special show dedicated to the trucking industry, specifically at the confluence of recruiting, retention, and compliance. In the fourth year as the host of this show, I bring over 2 decades of industry experience, both on the carrier side as well as the vendor side. Each week, I interview industry experts and thought leaders who bring their insight to the driver lifecycle as we discuss the industry's greatest challenges. I always appreciate your feedback, good or bad. Don't forget to leave a rating and a review. I'd also like to thank and highlight the show's valuable sponsors. Their dedication and commitment to the industry and to the show is greatly appreciated. If you're interested in being a sponsor of the show or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. This week, I'm honored to be joined by Shaun Lezer, a Utah-based professional truck driver of over a decade who's made some critical changes to his lifestyle in order to improve his health and well-being. I invited Shaun to join me on the show after we connected in response to the recent launch of Project 61, the nonprofit movement I founded to raise awareness of the industry's greatest epidemic. I was able to chat with Shaun and knew his story would resonate with this show's audience, as well as so many professional drivers out there. Shaun, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'd love to get into your background and hear what attracted you to the trucking industry, back in early 2013. Perhaps you could share a bit about what life has been like for you in the various roles as a driver and specifically what you've seen change, the past several years. I'd love to hear what triggered your motivation to improve your health and what steps you took to make that happen. And then it'd be great to get into just some of the challenges that you and most other professional drivers face when it comes to just to health, especially, and how you're now helping others, not just yourself. And then lastly, we'll answer a question during our newest segment of the show, Industry Health, which is sponsored by Project 61. Does all that work for you?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's we'll dive in and get started. First of all, how did your path lead you to becoming a professional truck driver?
Right before I became a truck driver, I was working for a family business that my wife's family had owned. And there wasn't much, there was no direction in that business and it was kind of falling off the wayside. So my son was about to be born and I knew that I needed to find a career that was going to help me provide for my family as well as longevity. It'd always be there, always something that I can fall back on. So I decided to sign up for a truck driving school in Northern California, and it was about a 3-month process. And after that, I got my CDL in February of 2013. I was driving with Schneider National.
So you recognized even before you got your CDL that from a career standpoint, this was a stable path for you.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
encouraging to hear because I know that, and I'm sure our audience knows that. But this was driver, pre-CDL. So recognizing that, I think that's an encouraging thing, especially when, again, you said you've got a family on its way and you needed to be a stable provider.
And yeah, and then also what also interests me in the industry was the fact that I would be able to travel. I enjoy traveling a lot. So being paid to travel across the United States for the first couple of years that I was over the road it sounded like a great plan.
So now, getting into you recognize that this was a great, path opportunity. How else might your eyes have been opened, as far as just once you became a driver, just how critical the role of a professional driver is, especially now that you've been in it over a decade?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got into it, I had no idea no expectations for the industry. And now being in, it'll be 12 years in February of next year. It's been a wild ride and I've seen and learned a lot. I would say my most impactful moments of my career was COVID, of course. I was working for Safeway Albertsons and just seeing all the freight that was being moved to the grocery stores was unbelievable. I mean, it was just loads and loads and loads of, supplies for the American people.
Yeah, the demand. For anybody who was on the outside and recognized during, especially COVID, that's a watermark in our industry, and it
Was.
really goes to show. Obviously, when there's catastrophes, natural catastrophes, and things like that, trucking's right there. Um, and they're helping. In this case, this was a really big deal, and it was encouraging to see how much support from people who maybe didn't even think twice about trucking or the industry or drivers specifically. That's that was encouraging. It was a really big deal. Now you drive for In-N-Out Burger, is that
I
right? Is
do
that what
now. Yeah, I do. It's awesome. It's allows me to be home every day. It's a night shift job, but I mean, I'm home every day and just get to spend a lot more time with family. We do four four tens, so do 4 days on and 4 days off. So it gives me a lot of home time. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and I may be stirring the pot with my audience a little bit, but, I'm gonna say In-N-Out is the best fast food hamburger that exists, period. And, it's
Would agree.
I would say it's not debatable. I'm from Southern California originally, so that's a staple, to my childhood and very nostalgic for me. Um, so now even though I've made some, significant changes, to what I eat, I still make room for a delicious In-N-Out burger every time I visit, Southern California and visit family and stuff like that. Um, as a professional truck driver, though, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you face, that impacts the rest of your life, especially in the over the road sort of long haul days?
I would say the biggest challenge out there is food choices. Whether it is go when you are been driving for a long day, 11 hours, and you go inside a truck stop, there's not very many healthy choices. And the truck stops have marketing to where they have all the unhealthy choices right there and cheaply. And so that's your brain, you're just tired and you're walking around a truck stop. Your brain automatically just wants to grab the fastest, easiest thing. And it's definitely not the healthiest. And then the other side is if you're trying to be healthy, you're going to prepare all your meals inside the truck. Most drivers have a refrigerator or a microwave, but it's hard to restock that supply of food, and you can only hold so much, maybe 3 or 4 days worth of food. So I'd say that's the biggest challenge we face.
Yeah, well, and even knowing what is healthy versus what isn't, I think that's some part of, there's some education that's necessary. For example, I listened to a podcast, that you, did earlier this year with, our great friends at St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. Is you shared, about your journey to improve your health, and you commented on what your, normal breakfast would be, right? Hostess donuts, a frappuccino, bottle of, frappuccino. I mean, just sugar upon sugar, refined carbs and sugar, and it's the antithesis of healthy. But you might think, "Oh, it's fine," right? I mean, but it's not, you know? And then especially drinking that. I mean, it's literally just there's no faster way to get sugar into your system than by drinking it. And, so that's just not that particular drink, but any, like the energy drinks, and you're just getting this huge glucose spike without any of the nutrition, none of the fiber. And I don't wanna get too into the weeds of that, but it's that awareness, I think, is that I'm driving at, like, knowing what is healthy versus, what's not healthy.
What's scary is you're constantly chasing that sugar high because after a couple hours, you're gonna get that sugar crash. So then you got to feed yourself more sugar to stay awake and to keep you going for the day. So that was a scary part looking back now what I was doing.
Well, and on that, like, can you share just with the audience, what was the catalyst or the motivation for you to make that decision to address your health as a professional driver? Because that you made a choice at one point. Can you kinda share how did that all come to be?
About a year and a half ago, I made the choice to just make drastic changes in my life to want to be healthy mentally and physically for my family, but more so for myself and for my health. I wanted, disease prevention. My entire family, both parents, all four grandparents were diabetics, and I'd say 3 out of the 4 died from diabetes, and so that's something that I want to hopefully prevent. And if I can't prevent it, I can manage it.
Well, it's breaking the chain, right? If
Absolutely.
you've got that family chain, but in order to do that, I mean, so much, and I know there is a small percentage of, and that's type 1 diabetes, right, where it's genetic, but
Correct.
type 2 is very
Two.
much aligned with, lifestyle, you know?
Absolutely. And that's what all my family was type 2 diabetics.
Okay. Well, I know, you reached out to, St. Christopher's after hearing an ad on, Road Dog Radio,
That's
right? I think
correct.
it's so this is a plug for both our great friends at St. Christopher's and our, friends at Road Dog.
Absolutely.
Um, and then you began to participate in their, Healthy Habits program, which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, is that a St. Christopher's emblem on your
That
shirt?
is. It is
Nice,
correct. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
You participated in one of St. Christopher's programs for drivers called Healthy Habits. How did that program help you?
Wow. I mean, it's helped me in so many different ways. The people over there at St. Christopher's, I cannot say enough about how amazing they are. They are just so helpful, and they're just there to listen and no judgment. That's what's been the biggest part for them, is just having no judgment and just listening to the drivers, and then giving feedback and education on how we can make small changes that will last forever.
Well, now, what are some of those changes that, in the last year and a half or so, what are maybe some of the biggest changes that you can that have been benefited you the most?
I would say the walking, my goal is to get 10,000 steps every day. And that's something I was never doing before. Staying hydrated, that's something I struggle with, but it is definitely something that I'm aware of. And I know that it's the most important thing, is to stay hydrated all day. And then portion control. I used to just sit there and eat till I was hurt. My stomach was hurting. Now I'm able to eat till I'm full and just push away.
Yeah, that's the American way, by the way. We eat until it's gone.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and we eat really fast. I read a
Yeah.
lot of books about this kind of stuff, and, in so many other cultures, they eat so much slower, and people say, like, "Oh, the French food, for example, the portions are so small." But, yeah, but they eat them slowly, and it's usually over a meal, and a meal is a communal thing, and they're satisfied. They don't get seconds. They don't, and they get, enjoy a glass or 2 of wine even throughout that process, and they stay thin. They don't have diabetes like we do, and, so, but again, the American way is we just eat it all, and then if there's more, we love to be in the land of abundance,
Yeah.
and
It
so
was something I was taught from a young age, definitely from my parents, and just to clean your plate. It was always
yep,
clean your plate and
yep.
be grateful.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. It's true. I look back in my childhood, same thing. But now, as a professional truck driver, and really just as an adult, let's say that first,
Mhm.
would understand that we've got to be more mindful of what we eat, how much we eat, and how much we move. You talked about walking, and by the
Mhm.
way, the fact that you can get upwards of 10,000 steps a day, I think, it's really difficult if you're a long haul, over the road driver. That's really
Absolutely.
difficult. They might
It
be
is.
fortunate to get 5 or 6, but it takes a lot of discipline, and it takes a lot of you have to be real intentional, would you say?
Yeah, correct. I would say that. And yeah, for especially for an over road truck driver, you're tired. You are exhausted. And that's the last thing you want to do, is go out and be disciplined and try to get in your steps. You just want to sleep.
Well, you mentioned hydration too, and one of the things that I've learned recently is, I'd say probably about 2 months or so I've been doing this. Every single morning when I wake up, before I drink coffee every day. I'm an American, but the first thing I drink is about 32 ounces of water. That's the first thing I drink. I've just gotten into the habit of it. I don't just chug it. I'm sitting there. I might, if I get up a little early before, like, I've got to get the kids up. Yeah, I'm reading a little bit, just kind of catching up on some stuff, but I'm just drinking that water. And then as soon as I'm done with that water, then I go get a cup of coffee. But I've built into a habit of that first thing I do in the morning is hydration. I've read that in a couple different places, the value of doing that. And so, and I feel better. And I think, it's these types of little things. You don't have to start running marathons tomorrow, right? You just need to do little baby steps, and you'll start to notice a difference. I assume that you started to feel much better after some of the changes that you had made.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I was just yesterday I was talking with my wife, and I had to prove to her that I'm able to touch my toes now, where that's something I was not able to do. So it feels really good to be more limber and flexible at my age, 42 years old.
Nice. Nice. Well, what is, everybody has a why, right? Why they're going to make, changes to their life. Sometimes there's sacrifices, there's trade-off, right? They don't all the guilt pleasures maybe they're going to give up because of something. Um, I know we're both fathers, and our children are very close in age. what's your why? What is it that keeps you motivated to take care of yourself beyond, not wanting to be another diabetes, victim?
Definitely my children, my wife, my family are part of that, and my mental health. I've over the last 5 years, I've experienced some very, very traumatic events in my life. I had my son died in 2019. He was 6 months old and died from SIDS. And then my parents died, both my mom and my dad, 2021, and uh, earlier this year, 2024, my mom passed away. So I was in a really dark space with my mental health because of dealing with all that grief. And so my why is to help keep my mental health. I know that the physical part is definitely they work together.
Mhm. Absolutely. And Shaun, I didn't I didn't expect to hear that, and I am grateful. I'm sorry, and I'm grateful that you're able to talk about it, that you recognize the challenges that has brought, and are doing something about it, not just for you, but others. And I can tell you, I'm confident that your parents, knowing who you are and how you have responded, would be incredibly proud.
I
And
appreciate
so
that. Thank you so much.
you're uh you're now part of the driver council for St. Christopher's.
Absolutely.
How important is that to you, and how important is being able to participate and being a part of the solution for drivers?
It feels really, really good because the trucking industry has done so much for me and my family. I mean, everything we're able to afford from the trucking industry, the life that I've been able to provide for my wife and for my kids. So to me, this is giving back to the trucking industry. It's a way that I can help other drivers, not only now, but in the future as well. Younger drivers that don't even have their CDLs yet. Maybe I can help prevent them from turning into what a lot of drivers are today, is the obesity and the diabetes.
Yeah, it's a really good point because that's one of the things that I don't think that they're educating, on the entry level driver training and, get new drivers coming in. Let's just assume that they're a young, healthy driver at the onset. It doesn't take long for that to change drastically, depending on
Absolutely.
the nature of the job, obviously. But if it's a long haul, over the road position, the amount of sedentary time and sitting is horrible for you for length, long periods at a time. And then, of course, and I would say, in my opinion, the nutrition or lack of is maybe as big a contributor of anything. But you collectively, the issues with nutrition, the issues with being sedentary, not moving consistently, and then poor sleep, and then
Yeah.
let's just add icing to with icing on the, sundae with the folks who smoke. I mean,
Correct.
it's a recipe for an early exit in
Yeah.
life.
And
Um,
I joined the trucking industry when I was 30 years old, and I was fairly healthy. I wasn't perfect by any means, but I was fairly healthy. And after my first year of driving over the road, I gained 80 pounds, 80 pounds, and it was scary.
and that's I would imagine that there are thousands or more stories like that, from drivers who got into the industry. And here's the reality. It's a tough job. I mean, but we really need it. But we really need you to be healthy so that you can live longer, because at the end of the day, trucking isn't your life. Trucking is a means to an end. It's a great job and it's so important, but your family is your life, and it's the experiences that you hope to have in your life that matter. And so, we want you to stay with us, right? That's kind of the whole point. That's what we want to help and impress upon the industry. Now, you mentioned walking earlier, and so before I get into the industry health segment, I do want to talk real quick about with St. Christopher's. You were the spearhead or the inspiration for a virtual 5K that was done earlier in 2024. Can you share how did that come about? And yeah, share a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was. We were just had a group conversation, and it was probably about 6 or 7 drivers plus the facilitator at St. Christopher's, which is Lindsey Bryan,
Yep.
and it was amazing. We were just having a great conversation, and we were just talking about things that we could do to help drivers outside of St. Christopher's. and help bring drivers into St. Christopher's, but also bring awareness and community to drivers as a whole. And I just threw out the idea of having a 5K, and it's something that this year was fairly small, but we hope to grow it every year.
I loved it. I participated with my family. We took pictures, and I didn't know at the time that I did that. I didn't know that you were the inspiration behind it, which I'm grateful for that. I think it was a lot of fun, and we got T-shirts. All of my kids, and they wear those T-shirts all the time. And it was a thing that it's just an opportunity to, like you said, raise awareness and also to move. And certainly we want to encourage drivers and anyone, any stakeholder in the industry to be healthier, to be more active, to move. But also it's the model that it sets sort of for our children. And for me to be able to do that sort of thing with my kids, that's the behavior I want them to see and hopefully follow as they grow up and they have children and so on. So, and you as a walker, and you talk about the number of steps, I see the number of steps that you get because you're also participating in Project 61's 61-day step challenge that started November 1st through the end of the year. And so, I like doing that. I like being able to see how everyone's doing. I think there's a little bit of accountability that takes place there as you can,
Absolutely.
see what's happening. And again, it's all about raising awareness. Um, Now, in this show's the latest feature segment here, what we call is industry health. This is where I ask my guest a question tied to health, which is a lot of what we've been talking about today anyway. But here's the question: what's the best way for a driver to get started with improving their health?
I would say educate themselves, learn, go ask questions, try to learn what it is that they need to work on, that driver needs to work on, or and how they can make this, what we were talking about earlier, how you can make the small changes in your life one step at a time. Don't try to take it all on at once, but just make those small changes, and then eventually they become habits, and you just constantly build on those. So you're not trying to climb the mountain all at once, you're just taking one step at a time. And for me, that's been the most biggest beneficial part of my journey, has been the group. That just find a group of people that you can talk to and just bounce ideas and thoughts and feelings and emotions, and no judgment. People over at St. Christopher, they've been amazing, just especially Lindsay. Just being able to talk to her and just have a normal conversation and know that she's there to listen and she cares and there's no judgment at all. And then I'm always going to get positive feedback at the end of the conversation.
I'm a big fan of St. Christopher's and the work they're doing, and also of Lindsey Bryan. I met her just over a year ago at an event. I think she wasn't there. She had fairly new, I think, at the time, and
Correct.
her passion was obvious. It was contagious, and it was so fun to talk to her about health and wellness. That's an area that she specializes in. That's her focus, and so encouraging to hear the success that you've had there, and that now as you're helping others with that. Shaun, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that we connected, and I appreciate your story. Keep up the fantastic work of delivering the nation's goods, especially the delicious In-N-Out burgers. And thank you just for being a shining example. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
You as well. Thank you for having me, Jeremy.
And thank you for taking the higher road with me. Once again, special thanks to the sponsors of the show. We really appreciate you. If you're interested in being a sponsor or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. Until next time, thank you for taking the higher road.